This is a Fox News alert. We are now getting reports that Ohio Governor John Kasich will be making an announcement this afternoon, and the reports are that he will be suspending his campaign. So again, we just got word that announcement will be coming this afternoon, and the reports are John Kasich will be dropping out of this race. I want to open it up to the couch right away. Things quickly changing.
Let's talk about the TikTok in this, and it really does start last night. You know, a lot of times media will get that sort of heads up, and even the audience members there who were there gathered to support Ted Cruz would get a heads up. You could hear a visceral and a very real gasp from people who were there. So that begins the conversation. Then we got word that John Kasich would be making a statement at the Dulles, Virginia airport, the international airport there in Dulles, and that was supposed to come at 10:45 here on the East Coast time. Then that changed just a short time ago, saying that no, he was going to his home state and would give some sort of a statement at 5 p.m. Eastern in Columbus. And now widely being reported, multiple reports, as Sandra said, this word that he is set to suspend his campaign. We knew that money issues were on the table for him. We knew that actually weeks ago, Melissa. That's not a shocker. But what we also probably knew was that Reince Priebus, from this tweet last night, says Donald Trump will be the presumptive GOP nominee. We all need to unite and focus on defeating Hillary Clinton. Hashtag never Clinton. That is from the account of the leader of the RNC.
I mean, I had a big reaction to that last night. I thought that was one of the most momentous thing that happened, because that was a clear signal to everyone out there that was going to heed it of what needed to be done. Cruz was a surprise. I think more people expected to hear from Kasich than pretty much immediately afterwards. So you wonder what's been going on today. What has been the conversation? Have they been deciding where are we going to say this? When are we going to do it? Trying to see, you know, maybe what he could get out of it, because look at how much the dynamics have changed from who would Trump pick, that he would need their delegates, to now he holds all the cards. I mean, it's a very interesting change.
But here we are, Pete, where Donald Trump, now the nominee, the presumptive nominee, and he faces the very daunting challenge of uniting this fractured GOP.
Yeah, and I think as you watch his speech last night, it sort of started to dawn on him more and more that in reality he will be the standard bearer of the Republican Party. By the way, I think this will be the last time, hopefully, we even talk about John Kasich. I mean, he was running a vanity campaign for the last 2 weeks anyway, totally irrelevant. And Ted Cruz gave a gracious speech last night. And what he recognized is the Republican base at this point chose populism over conservatism.
All right, we want to jump in. We've got this breaking news that is confirmed. John Kasich is suspending his campaign. Leslie Marshall is on the couch today. Your take on all of this?
Well, I have to say that, you know, as a Democrat, I wish the Democrats would take a lesson from the Republicans today, because they're uniting, and that's essential. I mean, both parties are fragmented. The nation is fragmented, obviously disillusioned about the two-party system. We have more and more people, especially millennials, who are registering, whether they're Democrat-minded or Republican-minded, as independents. And, you know, and quite frankly, Ted Cruz did something very smart. If you can't beat him, block him. And last night he knew, I can no longer block. I cannot stop Trump from getting to that magic number. I think a lot of us are questioning, you know, John Kasich, what are you doing, and why are you staying in the game?
Well, although I tweeted it out this morning. What is his next move? Let's watch him. And then within minutes, we saw what potentially the next move would be, and then it changed. That confirmation coming from our own campaign, Carl Cameron, who was hot on the story. So as we get more details, we're hoping that we'll hear more from Carl, and also our Rich Edson, who's waiting in the wings to join us as well. A couple of things before we move right on, though, with you, Leslie. Hashtag never Clinton. Coming from the leader of the Republican National Committee, what does that communicate to you?
Well, all along, I think most people, Democrat and Republican, have felt that she would be and will be, and she's going to be, the nominee. I mean, it is a numbers game. Primaries are about who does the party pick, and the Democrats have picked, and have all along picked, Hillary Clinton, and we will see that in just a couple of months. This is not surprising, because they want to obviously take the White House after 2 terms of Democrats. They need a Republican. This is their opponent. Unfortunately, and I know we may touch upon this later, Bernie Sanders is helping them, you know, because he's attacking her.
Unfortunately for your party.
Yes, unfortunately for me and my party.
All right, so we want to get right to this breaking news. Rich Edson, Fox News reporter Rich Edson, is on this story right now. Confirmation of Ohio Governor John Kasich dropping out of the race. Rich, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. And Sandra, this just leaves it to Donald Trump. Not as if that weren't the case, but the strategy for Ted Cruz and John Kasich going into Indiana and going into these later primary rounds was to try to prevent Donald Trump from securing the 1,237 electoral votes or delegates that he needed to secure the nomination on the first ballot. That would have opened it up on the floor and allowed perhaps another candidate to come through. That's not going to happen now. It seems very likely that Donald Trump, even before these two dropped out, was going to secure the 1,237 he needed on the first ballot. So last night you had Senator Ted Cruz drop out. John Kasich's campaign said that they were going to continue to fight on, but it became clear to them in the last few hours that that wasn't a strategy that they could move forward through, that Donald Trump would very likely end up with the 1,237 votes he needed. And there would be no point in going to a convention, no point to continue campaigning. He was supposed to have an event in the Washington, D.C. area today. We had our cameras ready to go there, but Kasich never left Ohio, and so he's going to hold an event there later today, and that's where we expect he's going to announce it, as Fox News does confirm that John Kasich is suspending his campaign, leaving the field now just to Donald Trump.
So as we do await that formal announcement this afternoon, Rich, you begin to wonder what else he will say in that announcement and in those remarks that he does make. What will he say about supporting or not supporting Donald Trump or bringing the party together?
It is the question that John Kasich and Ted Cruz and a number of Republicans in Washington, D.C. and around the country are asking themselves. How will they support Donald Trump? Will they support Donald Trump? How much will they support Donald Trump? And there are already divisions. There are some in the U.S. Senate who have already come out and said that they have opposed Donald Trump throughout this whole process. Will they change their minds? Because, again, if you're not supporting Donald Trump at a general election, you're supporting the Democrat as a Republican. And so what will the critique be? Will it be a critique on policy or all of Donald Trump? And these are the questions that Republicans have been going through for some time now. But now that it's clear that Donald Trump is going to be the nominee, it's one that they really have to reckon with.
Yeah, you know, it's also interesting, Rich, when you consider John Kasich's words that you can't, you know, nobody gets to the White House from the Republicans who didn't take the state of Ohio. You need that to get the nomination, so on and so forth. And that he had won his home state, the one state that he did win. And now you'd have to question, would he want to throw his support behind somebody so that that person could kind of claim Ohio in a way?
That's true. And if John Kasich were to throw his support behind Donald Trump, two very different candidates, would it really matter in Ohio if John Kasich had supported Donald Trump? And those are questions also. How much endorsements have mattered in this race? We paid so much attention to the endorsements that these candidates had gotten, so many of the endorsements that we've seen for candidates who weren't Donald Trump, to then only see Donald Trump dominate in those states.
All right, Rich Edson, thank you. You're on that news for us. We'll bring back anything that we have as we get it. Pete Hegseth, your take.
Yeah, I mean, obviously significant, less significant about what John Kasich says at 5 o'clock today, and more that the field is clear. I mean, think about that moment. It still mattered that there was still this lingering resistance.
Yep.
The resistance is gone. Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. That ends the nomination fight, but it really does only, I think, just begin the fight over the soul of the Republican Party, the fight over the soul of conservatism, which is playing out amongst those who said they were never Trump or opposed to Trump. Where do they go? I know we're going to talk more about this on the show today. Where do they go? What do they do? That is only just beginning, and Donald Trump's ability to consolidate that or build bridges, while he may move left, if you listen to his speech last night, it sounds like he's going to, some of those populist tones play well to the middle or even to the left, especially white voters he's going to want to target. How does he keep his right flank at the same time? The extent to which he can figure out that political balance will be whether or not he can be successful.
Well, one thing about Donald Trump, though, and moving to the left as he kind of pulls into the center, if you will,
sure.
His dance is going to have to be a lot less kind of ballet-like, doing the splits in the air than Hillary Clinton, because she, to quote one of our guests earlier on Happening Now, Daniel Henninger, she is going to be in a progressive straitjacket, is how he put it. I mean, she's really going to have to dance left to keep up with Bernie Sanders' supporters.
Definitely. I mean, we've already seen that. I mean, she's already talking about the progressive agenda that she shares with Senator Sanders. I think she's doing that in preparation to get his folks, because as you know, today the polls were 79% would vote for her, but that isn't 100%, and obviously that's what she wants. But I have to say, I think because of the divisiveness of Trump and his comments, it's going to be very hard for this dance that you talk about that he has to do. And the tone that he has to come up with to change. He has to start sounding a lot more presidential, a lot more willing to work with others and diplomatic.
I couldn't disagree with you more. The last point that you made was great, was this idea that voters in this country right now are rejecting a two-party system. I mean, that is the message that you take away from both the left and the right, is that they don't identify with either party, and so many are registered as an independent. But I think it'd be a huge mistake for him to get presidential now, especially now. I mean, so much of his narrative is this idea that he's an answer to everything that has gone on in Washington and that he's going to be totally different. I mean, I think it's a very subtle and slight move, and if he moves too much, he's going to lose people. In fact, I don't think it's great for him that they both got out at this point. I think he could have benefited from a fight all the way until the convention, because it keeps that narrative going. I'm fighting against the guys that you hate.
Yeah,
but he'll do that with Hillary.
The iron sharpens iron, basically. And their alliance, I mean, even though Donald Trump put it down and it didn't last long, I mean, the alliance between Cruz and Kasich was like, you could have set an egg timer on that. But I mean, even though it didn't, it did help kind of give him some grit against the rest of the field. Kind of helped define him in a way.
But you know what? Even though the formal resistance is gone as far as the convention floor, the resistance will continue.
Wow, this sounds like an episode of Star Wars.
May the force be with you.
Intergalactic battle.
By the way, no word on John Kasich dropping out from Donald Trump yet. Monitoring his very busy Twitter account. Nothing yet, but I would expect, Melissa or Leslie, that he will probably make a statement on this at some point soon.
Oh, definitely. To your point, though, okay? This is a guy that has, and are we agreeing sitting next to each other in person here? Donald Trump has,
Maybe.
has half of the Republicans' party support. That leaves the other half.
I don't think
they haven't liked what he's been saying, and I'm not saying he's going to do a full 360. I mean, obviously he can't. That's not his personality to do.
Now, oppositionally, it's Hillary Clinton. It's as Reince Priebus put it, it's the hashtag Never Clinton. That's a lot different than having people within your own party, and whatever the divide may look like within that party.
Well, they also, remember, if you look at the polls, although they may not like her and they do not trust her, his numbers are worse than her.
But this is why Trump has a very good chance of winning here, because both of the momentum on both sides has been to the candidate who rejects everything that's come before them, who rejects the mainframe of the party. Now, Trump doesn't have to change his message. He gets to continue the way he was. I am anti everything that you have hated about Washington. She is everything you hate about Washington. She's the one that has to find a way to get all of these disenfranchised people out there who've been so supportive of Bernie and Trump, any of these people, to vote for her. She's the one that has the problem.
That calculation still requires Donald Trump building and keeping the Republican-based coalition that he will need. And the question is, can he consolidate those Republicans who were for any of the other 16 candidates but him? He's got to have them not just not vote, because some of them will vote for Hillary, and that's the real establishment, and those are the real problem. It's the ones that will sit at home and not participate, that will, because they'll look at Hillary and Trump, this massive clash of titans, and it'll be a mess for 6 months of negative campaigning. He will have a problem there. No, the numbers are the more difficult piece. When you say California, New York, he can win those states, put them in play, the numbers simply don't bear that out. So he's going to have to win in the states that Republicans always have to win: Ohio, Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, and fight for maybe new classes of voters, no doubt. But he's got to tap dance. Thankfully, he's running against the worst candidate in mankind in Hillary Clinton.
So some news just coming in from our Carl Cameron. Of course, he confirmed for Fox News that John Kasich is set to suspend his campaign when he makes that statement today, 5 p.m. Eastern, from his home state of Ohio. Another of our producers has now a second source confirming that. And senior staffers reportedly have just wrapped up their meeting in Ohio. And again, yet a third person confirming. So here at Fox News, we've got people who are actually coming out of a meeting, senior staffers, and we're able to at least witness that, if not talk with them. I don't have confirmation of those conversations, but that's what's coming into us now. John Kasich tweeted about 15 hours ago, right after Senator Ted Cruz dropped out. And I thought this was interesting to add to the mix. Senator Cruz should be proud of his strong and disciplined campaign. Texas is lucky to have you. Best wishes going forward, John. it will be really interesting to see how the rest of the day unfolds for
Well, it's a great point
John.
because we haven't really talked yet about, Leslie, in Ted Cruz dropping out last night, in Donald Trump's victory speech, the very complimentary tone and words that he used to describe what just hours ago before that had been Lyin' Ted. And then it became he was very gracious with his words about Senator Ted Cruz.
Well, this is politics at its finest, right? And look, I'm not standing on a grassy knoll, but I was saying, I'm wondering, how many promises Trump made maybe to these guys, with, or because Ted Cruz, like he said, Ted Cruz is a very intelligent guy. He ran a very intelligent campaign. He could be an asset, actually, to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump doesn't fare well with the extreme right facet of the Republican Party, the conservative evangelical.
Yes,
and quite frankly, John Kasich can also be helpful to the
John Kasich, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, guys like that will be critical indicators as to whether or not Republicans will fall. Exactly, whether they do, but whether they will fall behind Donald Trump. If Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz say, sorry, I'm sitting this out, or I've decided I can't vote for either, or I'm not for Trump, that's a big signaling effect to their supporters. Now, we know voters have their own independent minds and they'll make their own decisions, but I got to believe there's a lot of Trump outreach to those folks right now.
And I think his exact words when he was complimenting Ted Cruz was he was a hell of a competitor and that he's got a very bright future. Yes, Harris.
And so I just mentioned delegates, and we've been keeping that close count on who has what and so on and so forth. I had a question this morning, and John Kasich has not gotten out of this race yet. I mean, that announcement that we're all anticipating has not happened yet. So I think looking at the delegate count is still something that we can talk about. So was it supposed to lay out in a contested fashion, and what would that have looked like going forward after Indiana? I mean, I would imagine those conversations, it wasn't just about money. It wasn't just about, do you want to unify the party? But really, the numbers just weren't there for anybody but Trump after a while.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. I mean, without question. And Indiana was a turning point, and I think the polling early on, so this conversation that you're talking about was probably happening in the past few days as we saw those poll numbers really switch. I mean, what happened to Ted Cruz? His numbers really started to sink there and trade places with Donald Trump. And they had to be assessing this in the last couple of days as we came up, and what are we going to do in the, when the inevitable, as it seemed like the polls were showing, happened. But I loved your point. I mean, you're right. There is a lot that those candidates have to offer. Both of you were saying that, and that's so true. You do wonder, were there conversations between the campaigns, and will we hear about that?